It's almost 4 months now since President Muhammadu Buhari first announced full lockdowns in some states including Lagos, Ogun and the FCT, which were worst hit by the coronavirus. Subsequently, on April 27th, the presidency declared the gradual easing of the lockdown and 5 weeks restrictions. Furthermore, the first phase of the lockdown was extended by 2 weeks, which elapsed Monday, 1st of June. Now, the Chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, said during one of the daily briefings that the current phase of eased lockdown has been extended by 4 more weeks. This he confirmed would include some modifications, such as ending the ban on interstate travel effective 1st of July, provided that it is not during curfew hours. The Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, is expected to have warned drivers to strictly adhere to the latest lockdown rules and regulations as they relate to interstate travel. As part of the measures and new protocols for another phase of the ease of lockdown, the federal government instituted regulations and guidelines to be put in place by state governments. The question is, can these sustain the fight against COVID-19 and achieve a flattening of the curve? This will be our focus on Nigeria Today as we take a look at ease of lockdown with particular reference to interstate travel. I am Dennis Adegunloye. Welcome to the program. And joining me on the program is Ahmed Sadjo, Public Affairs Analyst and former Commissioner for Information and Strategy at Adamawa State. You're very welcome once again to Nigeria Today.
Thank you.
And also with me is Suleiman Musa, Head of Department Mass Transit at the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW. It's good to have you join us on Nigeria Today.
Thank you.
All right. The federal government has instituted regulations and guidelines to its recent phase of lockdown to state governments. Ahmed, please just highlight for us these guidelines and how would you say they are being enforced or adhered to at the motor parks to start with?
Well, thank you very much. I think I would start from a little correction to your introduction. Okay. I don't think the federal government had asked the NURTW to warn drivers. I think what the federal government intends to do and what it had interfaced with NURTW and other players in the transport sector to do is to actually mobilize their members to understand that the process is for self. It's not for government. You don't have to. There's no way government can enforce these guidelines. The government can only elicit voluntary compliance because people believe that they are protecting themselves and they are protecting their families, the passengers and everybody that is involved. Now the guidelines is about, the most hard-hitting part of the guidelines is the fact that the number of passengers per vehicle would have to reduce. And reducing the number of passengers per vehicle actually reduces the quantum of money that is in the hands of the transport operators. And the transport operators are also required, as good citizens of the country, to not to hike their fares to a level that will make it difficult for people to pay and travel. So there's a balance the government wants to strike between, allowing people to move and also protecting lives. I have said it before and I'm saying it again, that this is a fight between survival and livelihoods. You must survive because the disease can terminate your life. But you must also live to be able to protect that life. And in living, you need to you need to undertake some economic activity. And ab initio, the ban on interstate travel was one of the most hard-hitting of all the lockdown activities, because transportation is a key lubricant in economic activity. Without transportation, you cannot move goods and persons from location to location. And economic activity is all about movement. Yes, we are moving to a phase where we are now going online and we can transact businesses online from home, but you still need to move certain goods and facilities, you know, physically to their locations. Or, for example, restaurants are told to just give takeaway, and all of them have introduced, you know, an order you can make, and then the food is taken to your location. But then it has to move. Movement is involved. So transportation is key, and the players in the transportation subsector are actually very, very relevant and key to the success of whatever government is trying to achieve. Whatever economic recovery plan we have, whatever method, whatever means we want to reflect our economy, we must allow movement to occur. And even during the total lockdown, movement of foodstuff and things was allowed. So now we are allowing movement of people. I think the guidelines is very clear that they should not move during the curfew hours. It's in our own interest, because these days, with so much security concerns, movement in the night is itself not even safe, secure. So we are asking, you know, the drivers, the operators generally, to be very careful, even for their own security and the security of the passengers. We are also asking that they should allow some distance between passengers, so that, and then they should encourage their passengers to use protective gear, face masks and others like that, and they must have some hand sanitizers and have soap and water to wash at the motor park. And I think these are the key guidelines that the presidential task force has planned. These are the key guidelines we believe that the operators in the transport sector would assist us make sure that people comply.
All right, on those points, let me bring in Suleiman Musa, the head of Department Man's Transit at the NURTW. Clearly, as the former commissioner for information and strategy at Adamawa State said, that movements of goods and services is critical to reviving the nation's economy. In terms of your field, which is transport, in terms of the adherence to these health guidelines and protocols by the Ministry of Health and the NCDC, how would you assess the situations on the part of the NURTW and its members? Mr. Suleiman Musa.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank the federal government for taking measure in reducing the spread of this COVID-19. I also want to use this medium to thank the federal government for easing the interstate lockdown. In fact, despite the increase in the cases, new cases, the government have seen the necessity of releasing the interstate lockdown, and we are very much aware and very much understanding all the protocol, and we have been mobilizing our members to make sure that they protected themselves and they live very, very safely. The union, in its effort, have made provisions of the face masks, the soap and water almost at the entrance of the motor park for the commuters to use it, and also hand sanitizers. The majority of our members, in fact, the lockdown started just yesterday, but even before then, those who are within the town service, they are very much are abiding by the protocols.
How would you say, or how would you assess the levels of compliance on the part of the commuters, the travelers, as well as the drivers in terms of spacing and physical distancing, as opposed to, you know, looking to make as much
yes,
money as possible?
The compliance is encouraging, but there is a lot of challenges, more especially within the town service. When it is during the peak period, after working hours, people are trying to go back to their houses. You see the rush that's in Abuja here and some places like Lagos. There is a lot of challenges, but we thank God. You know, there are some people that did not even believe that this COVID-19 is real. But with the publicity and sensitization that is going on both at the social media and media houses, in fact, people are now understanding and they are cooperating gradually.
All right, let me bring back the former Commissioner for Information and Strategy. We're talking about community spread now of this dreaded virus. How would you say this relates, or how would you say this easing of the travel restrictions would impact on community transmission of COVID-19?
Well, you know, honestly, like you said at the beginning, there is a surge. And we saw the surge, but we also saw that government had realized very importantly that there is a limit to the resilience of the people. We cannot take the resilience for granted and push it beyond its own limits. So there is a surge, but the surge, it's alarming, quite all right, but it's not uncontrollable. You know, there are two perspectives to it. Now we have reached a point where we're witnessing our community transmissions. Community transmissions among people who have lived together for so long, who had interacted and trusted each other for so long that it's very difficult to put barriers in between them. And then secondly, we're witnessing a period where, you know, for those who are in disease control, they will tell you that when the season is as wet as we are, and when the heat is reducing as a result of the upsurge in the rains coming, that you know, spread of diseases of all kinds, you know, the condition is more conducive for diseases to spread at this point in time, except for maybe meningitis that you know, works in very dry conditions. So we're looking at a situation where it's difficult, but it also comes with its own opportunities. In places where there is difficulty getting water, now water is easily available, and so with soap to wash hands and things like that. But there are still challenges, and the challenges, we need to encourage up the ante in terms of public enlightenment so as to identify those who are still skeptical about the existence of the disease.
Yeah.
You know, in countries where people threw away caution, we have seen what is happening. So we must continue to work cautiously, to protect ourselves cautiously, but to ensure also that we live our livelihoods.
Sure.
Because between survival and livelihoods, it's a very hard and difficult decisions to take.
Yeah,
we must live to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. All right, the program is Nigeria Today, and we're discussing COVID-19 and interstate, or the ease of restriction of interstate travel. We'll be back shortly after this break. Do stay with us.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers. constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
All right, you're welcome back. The program is Nigeria Today. If you are just tuning in, our topic today is ease of lockdown, with a particular reference to the interstate travel, lifting of restrictions. Our guests are still with us: Ahmed Sadjo, Public Affairs Analyst and former Commissioner for Information and Strategy at Adamawa State, and also we have the Head of Department, Mass Transit at National Union of Road Transport Workers, in person of Suleiman Musa. I'll come back to you now, Suleiman. Just before the break, we're talking about how many Nigerians do not believe that this COVID-19 virus actually exists. Is anything in terms of what NURT is doing at the motor parks in particular to bring home the message that this COVID-19 is actually real and that it is something that Nigerians should own responsibility for in terms of protecting themselves and others? What are the NURTW doing in this regard?
Quite apart from sensitizing our own members and the members of the commuters, we have printed some flyers that we are distributing at the parks and giving some example and instances that will be able to communicate to commuters in the language they will understand. So, and we are trying to train some of our members who will be stationed at all loading points for those who may like to violate the social distances due to their ignorance or disbelief in the COVID-19. So there are so many things that we put in programs that will make sure that we did not risk ourselves, we didn't risk our customer, so that we can live safely.
Okay, all right, Ahmed, let me come back to you. This issue is quite critical because a lot of the people that do not believe this COVID-19 really exists are those who are maybe not understanding the message properly from the ministry or from the NTDC and relevant agencies and authorities. This idea of bringing the message to the grassroots in a way that they understand in their languages, in maybe traditional cultural ways, seems to be an avenue that should be pursued. Just give us your thoughts on that.
I think the first and most important public mobilization strategy is to have those in authority, show sufficient commitment and display sufficient political will in tackling the pandemic, and I think they are doing. We're getting it from those who are in leadership position. We have seen governors who are positive announcing to the world that yes, I am positive. We've seen people who are even very close to the president himself, saying we have a challenge from COVID-19, and we even lost our chief of staff. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept his soul. Give him a peaceful repose. We also saw a number of other people who are highly placed, and even celebrities who are positive, who are accepting that, yes, this thing exists and I have been affected, I've been infected. And I think that is one strand of creating, acceptance in the populace that this thing does exist. And then the second one is actually to try to create community ownership of the process of the Enlightenment. No matter what we try to do as government, as media houses, as social media handlers, if we do not transfer ownership of the process to the community itself, to the people, the public themselves, to understand that, and see it as a protection, we will not succeed. And I think it is in that line that the President of the Federal Republic, when he received a report, even though the curve has not flattened, even though the surge has not gone down, but he realized that if he tasks the citizens beyond the present limit, the citizens may begin to see the lockdown as a punishment rather than as a necessary activity to protect them. So he has eased the lockdown to the extent that he has allowed interstate travel. Now, our basic, the challenge we have as a nation is that there are too many chaotic activities going on in places that we should have had order. Our market system is usually chaotic. Our motor park system is usually chaotic. Our social gatherings are usually chaotic. And a lot of other things that we used to have a lot of chaos in. In the formal sectors, look at the aviation. They could afford to do certain things. Look at, you go to the banks, you go in the formal sectors of the economy, where because ab initio, there was order, we could afford to put some order. But the system in our markets, the system in our motor parks had been chaotic for quite some time. And I think this is a time that we must begin to bring the players together. It's not just the NURTW, the RETAN, the Luxury Bus Owners Association, the Transport Owners Associations, all the unions or all the organizations within the transport sector. We need to come together and begin to develop order in the chaotic setups we have in our markets and our motor parks. We need to bring order, and then we need to also begin to establish proper data management. If we had a data-driven system in our country, reaching out to people would not be too difficult for us, and we would be able to get the numbers. If today we've tasked my brother here of the NURTW to work, he should be able to give us numbers. In this number of motor parks, this number of drivers have been sensitized and mobilized, and this number of passengers moved between this park and that park, and we have been able to reach them. So we need to begin to have a data-driven society.
All right, let me just bring in Suleiman on that. Our time is quite up. But so on that point, just give us your thoughts on data management on the part of motor agencies like yourselves, NURTW. Just briefly, please.
Yes, we're working with ITF, International Transport Federation, to develop a database for all our members, and at the same time to develop a commuters database. That program is on. The program is on.
Is ongoing. Okay, yes. We certainly wish that program to take off in earnest and make streamline the whole process to make for smoother operations. Suleiman Musa, Head of Department, Mass Transit, National Union of Road Transport Workers in the NURTW. Many thanks for taking the time to be with us on Nigeria Today and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
And thanks also to Ahmed Sadjo, Public Affairs Analyst and former Commissioner for Information and Strategy at Adamawa State. Ahmed Sadjo, thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. It's always been my pleasure.
All right. And to our viewers, thanks for watching. And remember, Nigeria Today airs weekdays at 7:30 in the evening. And you can also watch this and other editions on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I am Dennis Adigunloye. Thanks for watching and see you again soon.